Hey everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to dive into skyboxes in Unity. Skyboxes are a powerful way to enhance the visual appeal of our game. A skybox is essentially a panoramic texture that wraps around your entire scene, creating the illusion of a vast environment. Whether you're building a bright-colored fantasy world or a dark, eerie horror game, adding the right skybox can make a huge difference. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to ultimately add it into the scene, and I want to show you guys that the skybox is basically everything you see in the background here. So this purple to cyan gradient here, this is going to be our skybox that is shipping with our 3D game kit. Now, if we go ahead and access our standard scene, I'll just go to a new scene here and do a basic built-in, you'll see this also has a skybox, which is this ground here going up into the sky. So what are these things? Well, these are essentially textures, and we can find them by coming up here to our rendering menu. So if you come up here to Windows, Rendering, and go to Lighting, you'll see there's this section here called Environment, and you'll see that there is a skybox material assigned. And we can actually change this material. Right now it's on the default skybox. But if I go ahead and click into here, we can see if there's other materials in our scene we can assign, and you'll see there's all sorts of different materials. You could technically assign any of these, but you'll notice they don't quite work unless they're the skybox one. We could try and find the skybox one to our current scene here. So you'll see there's actually several skyboxes here that ship with our 3D game kit, which is really cool. Or we could build our own. Now, in order to build your own skybox, there's a couple different ways we can do it, but one of the best ways is to start with some sort of an asset. If you navigate over to the Unity Asset Store, you can look up an asset called AllSky, and the AllSky asset will have some skies we can use for free. If you click into here, you can see this. I've already got it and downloaded it, but it has several skies in here that actually have photographic details that could create a more dynamic environment for us using photographs rather than just gradients. Remember, you can click Add to My Assets, you can download that. Once you have that downloaded, you can come to Windows Package Manager, just like we did with the 3D Game Kit. Make sure you set this to My Assets, mine's already there, and then you can find the assets that you've downloaded. So here's my AllSky here. I can just click Download, and we can bring these into the scene. You can see what it comes with. It's going to come with 10 skies that we can use with additional cube maps, and basically they're going to be set up and ready to go for us. So what this will allow us to do is add in our own sky maps, which will be exciting and neat. Now, in terms of how these work, there's a lot of different ways you can create these. So let me navigate out to my assets here. So I'm going to go into my tutorial folder here, and I'll go ahead and create a new material while we wait for this to download so we can discuss this a bit more. And in this material, I'll just call it Skybox. What I want to show you is in the Unity materials here, let me move my package manager off screen. We can come to the drop-down menu here in the materials, and you can see there's a whole section here called Skybox. So there's several different approaches you can take to a skybox. There's six-sided skybox, there's cube maps, there's panoramic, there's procedural, and there's simple. Six-sided will be what we call a cube map, and the idea is that essentially this turns the sky into a cube with soft and normals that have been inverted, and on each of these you place a texture. And what that does is it creates this illusion of a 360-degree environment. You can look up cube maps online to try and find some if you wanted to use them, and you could also build your own. Building them can be hard without proper equipment or software because you need to essentially have them unfold similar to this, where each side is seamless. We can bake this in software like Maya. We could also bake this in software like Unity, which is good to know. If we come back here and look at some of the other ones here, if I go to my skyboxes, you can see we have the cube map. This one will input a singular cube map instead of individual cube maps, so kind of like the one we looked at. The six-sided does individual pictures. Panoramic is going to use a panoramic texture, spherical HDR, and we've actually used this before. If you recall, in our Unity project, I had you guys download one of those from Polyhaven. We could use something similar here if I can find one. So I have this Milky Way IBL that I've had for quite a while. I could come in here and I could drag in the HDR image here and bring it into Unity. I'll just drag and drop it into this tutorial folder. And I'll actually bring in the other one since that one's blurred. That way we can see this one in all its awesomeness. And in this material I've created, this new skybox, if I input this into the texture here, it should work. Now, as you might already be aware, all I need to do to plug this in is come up here to my Windows rendering, go back into that lighting panel, and I can navigate over here to the environment, and I could plug this in. So if I go ahead and look up Skybox, we can find this one, and you'll see the effect that this has, just like we had in Maya, we can actually bring into here. Notice there is a nasty seam there, so this is not optimized. I'd have to figure out how we could get that seam out of there, but you can see how that's in our scene and it's affecting it. Now, as you might have also guessed, this is the main light source, so if I come in here with something like a polygon plane, and we just place this in here, this will now be what's illuminating my scene, so it'll be based on this lighting. So that's going to be the panoramic. If we come back under here into the skybox options, we also have a procedural sky we can set up. This is the default in Unity. And you can see we can adjust various things like the sun size. We could make bigger or smaller. We can play around with the convergence. We can adjust the atmosphere thickness if we wanted to have like a fiery type scene. And we can play around with the sky tint and ground tint. So let's say we wanted to make this more Martian looking. I could create a red tint and maybe play around with the atmosphere, and we could even play with the ground here. And, you know, at this point, it's starting to look a lot like the one we already have in the 3D game kit. So this is very likely the approach they took. We could play around with exposure for brightness. All right, so that's going to be that. Now, what's cool is these finished downloading, so I can go ahead and import these in. And we can take a look at the all skies next once we have them up in here. But that's going to be a look at the various approaches we can take for adjusting these guys. So you can see we have a lot of different options that we can utilize that give us tons of control over how we are going to approach things. All right, so just like we had to do with the 3D game kit, after we download, we do have to come in here and import these. You'll see there's just 10 of these to bring in. I'll click import. And that's going to load these in, and then we can start taking a look at these and seeing which one fits best for our scene. This may take a bit, so I'm going to let this finish downloading, and once it's up and running, we'll go ahead and take a look at what these all sky packages have for us, and then we'll adjust the actual sky we have in our scene to make our exterior environment a little bit more exciting. All right, so once we have this in here, we should see this all sky free, and if you come in here, you'll see we have some different settings. The nice thing is it actually does come in here and set these up as materials, so we should be able to just search for these and we can sample through them. So if I come up here to my Windows rendering lighting and we check this out, we can go ahead and take a look at what's contained in there. All right, so we can come in here, and now if we go ahead and type in sky, we should have a lot more skyboxes from the all sky here. And you'll see they're actually tagged all sky, so we can click through these. And let me zoom out so we can kind of see the effect they have. You can see this one's kind of a nighttime scene, really dramatic, really neat, would be cool for like a werewolf type game. Come in here, we can see another one here that's looks like it's from outer space actually, which is kind of cool. This one here is just kind of foggy and overcast, and then there's some generic ones here that look like they're actually to materials. So I'm not sure on that one. But let me go and see if we can search all in here, all sky. And that will give us a handful that we can work through. So I'm actually not quite sure why these ones don't seem to have anything associated with them. Looks like they might just be cartoon style skies. It does look like there's some in here that I'm not seeing. So you can see this cold sunset. We could look through these. You'll see they're in the source files though. So yeah, there's some cool ones we can play around with. So we can find which one feels right for our scene, and we could give it a shot. Just look through these. You could also drag and drop them into here if you can identify which one of these is the material. I'm not actually sure. I think it's the one with the circle here. So there we go. And we can sample through these to pick what we like. All right, so I'll let you take a look through these on your own if you choose to download this pack. For me, I think what we're going to do is maybe play around with the overcast sky to kind of give a more somber feel to our exterior environment. So let's go ahead and open that up. I'll go to our scene here. We'll just go to open scene. We can come into our scene, into our sandbox 2 here. We can go ahead and open this up. And once this loads in, we can take a look at the terrain we set up. You can see our big, beautiful environment here. What we're going to do now is alter the sky. So I can come up here to our rendering. We can go into lighting. And at this point, we can navigate over to the environment light here. And we can change the skybox out here. I'll go ahead and swap this for our all sky material. And we could have an overcast sky here. It does have a slight purple temp. I think that runtime shadow color might... no, I'm actually not sure where they're getting that from. That's kind of neat, though. It makes me wonder if I look at some of these other ones, what it would be like. For example, if I piped in the cold night into here, if it would have a similar effect or not. It looks like it kind of does. So we could play around with that, but I kind of like this cloudy look. I think I'm still going to go with it. The purple fits the color of the game. That might be a post-processing render they have applied. But let's go ahead and hit play and see how this impacts the mood of the game and the feel of the lighting. And you can see now we're getting a much different sky. It's not vibrant. It has those shadows. Kind of fits in with our music we've added. We still have the other layer of clouds on top. That's that visual effect it has. But you can see how we can change that out to give it a different mood. So we can play around with different ones. Maybe we actually decide one of these other ones feels better. I kind of liked the sunset ones. Those ones were kind of cool. I don't know how it would look, though, with the lights baked in. The clouds baked in, excuse me. So we'd have to play around with that. But we could take a look at that. And now you'll see I'll have some moving clouds and some non-moving clouds. But a lot of really cool ways we can modify things. So you can use these ones, you can make your own custom one, but you can see how that alters the feel of our level. I think it's kind of a neat combination using the moving clouds with the non-moving. So, very nice. And that is going to wrap up our overview of skyboxes in Unity. You've learned how to apply a skybox, customize it, and even create your own to give your game that perfect atmosphere. Experiment with different skyboxes to see how they can transform your scene. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments how you're using a skybox in your project. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.